group, let's make this conversational. I'm infamous for saying things backwards or saying things over. So when I say something backwards, you know I'm wrong, catch me on it and let me know. And then if you got any questions or if you want some additional information about a slide or about some information that we're talking about, just let me know, we'll try to go deeper. There's no way I know everything about nutrition. One of those worthless statistics, if you started reading 15 hours a day, every day on January 1, on December 31, just for what's published in that year, you'd be 4 months behind on reading nutrition information. It's just so much out there. It's everywhere. The information I have is really based on scientific research and literature. It's not somebody's opinion or out of a book. So I don't have a lot of hard and fast, you got to have this much omega-3 oil, because it's different for everybody, and it really is a choice between you and your physician and what's best for you. But I do have information on some of those things. I'm a registered dietitian, been in healthcare, food service, sales and marketing, and management for about 35 years. And I'm currently with US Foods that were gracious enough to allow me to come and visit with y'all today. So I do appreciate that. The presentation has nothing to do with US Foods. No, it's just general nutrition and wellness. Any questions before we get started? This is just a general statement on a healthy diet and healthy eating goals. This is from 3 different groups, and I just compiled all the stuff they had in there. And what we'll do is we'll come back to this slide over and over again, and it'll be highlighted sections, and whatever they have in this healthy diet, that's what we'll focus on for the next slide or 2 or so. And I've done this a handful of times, so it's evolved over time, and I've gotten some great feedback from the groups and asked for more specific information. So I've added some of that here, but I'm really hoping that y'all will provide some information that I can add to the next slide and questions and what I need to do to make this better. So normal healthy diet. A variety of options appearing on menus. Variety is the key. You see a lot of people that are on mono diets or just a couple of items. Like you have people that eat corn, potatoes, and steak or beef. That's all they eat. It's very difficult to get all the nutrients that you need if you're not eating a wide variety, especially when it comes to the fruits, grains, fruits, vegetables, grains, those types of things. And it's because you need so many different B vitamins. They're water soluble. You got to have them every day. So if you're not getting enough of those in your diet, over time you're going to develop a deficiency. And anytime somebody says deficiency, it's, oh no, this is bad. What's it going to be? It takes a long time to develop a deficiency typically, and you will notice changes. Your skin won't be quite as smooth and healthy as it was. You'll also may have hair loss, those types of things. Copper deficiency, you have curling hair on the sides right here. So there's all of those signs if you have a deficiency. But it's one of those unique things where it doesn't take a lot of good nutrition to get you off of that deficiency state. Everybody knows about scurvy, and the English sailors were called limeys because of the vitamin C. And they were having scurvy, which is a horrible wasting disease. It actually impacts the connective tissue, and your body just wastes away. Your clones bleed real bad, your muscles don't function, and literally flesh would tear off of them at the end stage of the disease. It's 60 milligrams of vitamin C a day is the recommended daily allowance. 10 milligrams of vitamin C a month is enough to prevent scurvy. So it doesn't take a lot, you just gotta have a little bit of everything. Any questions about that? It talked about a menu, and it talked about eating as a based off of the recommendations of the location of the restaurant or the home or wherever you are. They'll have signals, and it's like this this little signal right here, and it's for every category. It should have something that's heart healthy or a little bit better for you, lower in sodium, higher in fiber, that kind of thing. You see this on virtually every menu now. And if it's not on there, you can ask for it. You can ask for the nutrition information from the manager or whoever's there at that particular facility. You gotta be careful though, because a lot of times the designations are their most profitable items or the items that they sell the most of. It's not necessarily just the heart healthy items. One of the ways a group member helped was, this was actually from one of the nursing homes that I call them, and the gentleman spoke up and said, I don't know how to pronounce Swahili, much less what it is. So why would I get that? That's a great question. I'm not going to get something I have no idea what it is. So for the next presentation, and that's a failure on the home's part. They should have done education for all of those residents, and this is now on our menu. It's heart healthy. This is why it's heart healthy, and this is what the item is. They didn't do that. So the next time I came back, I had this slide. This is, and typically around here, we're going to call it Pangasius. It's got several different names. The iridescent shark. In the 80s, a lot of the fast food places that had the fish sandwiches, it was iridescent shark, and all the kids would say, "It's shark. It's shark. It's not great white. It's this fish right here." It's not as common anymore in the fast food restaurants, so you're using more cold water cod, that type of thing. But Pangasius is an amazing fish, and I've ran the kitchen at the VA for the last 10 years, and we served rivers of Pangasius. It's just an amazing product. It's reasonably priced. It's very, very clean tasting. It doesn't have that fishy taste. And I go into a lot of the nursing homes, and the residents are complaining about the catfish taste fatty, and it's got the dark vein running through it, and it smells overly strong fish smell. This doesn't have that impact. Now, since we're in Louisiana, there's people that they're never going to do anything with catfish. That's just the way it's going to be. So if they're not going to eat this, then catfish is a good alternative. If they'll try this, they'll get away from catfish. I'm almost certain. Any questions about that? Has anybody heard of the Basa fish? It's the same fish. It's just a different part of the world where they call it that. Okay, delicious. If the description of your menu and your healthy diet doesn't include delicious, it's not going to be successful. I can't tell you the number of times that I've heard a new dietitian out of school saying, "Well, what I do is I allow myself one Coke," or "What I do." It's not about that dietitian, especially not a dietitian that's 2 days out of school. It's about what the national recommendation is. It's what you like. It's what's good for you. I heard an older dietitian tell a 70-year-old veteran when I was working at the VA that if he didn't have 2 cups of yogurt a day, he was never going to be healthy. That guy had never eaten yogurt in his life. He's 70-something. He's been doing something right. You just don't have to have these magic foods. And you hear about it all the time, and for a while it was white navy beans. If you have 2 servings of white navy beans, there's no magic with white navy beans. It just doesn't work like that. The other thing that happens often with dietitians and patient populations is the wife a lot of times gets blamed for the husband's bad behavior. The wife can't tie him to the chair and force feed him. He's not 2, although he may act 2 sometimes. I've been married 35 years. I know my wife thinks that. So it's not fair to put somebody else's behaviors and intake on another part. That's not right. That's not the way it should be. And I've seen that from dietitians throughout much of my career. Will you cook the food for him? Yes, but he's going to starve to death or go to McDonald's if I don't have something that he's going to eat. So it has to be delicious food that you're going to want to come back to. In the 70s and 80s, everybody tried the rice cakes. Do y'all remember that? Mm-hmm. The styrofoam, no taste, this horrible product. Cardboard. And it's still available today. It's just not in the great quantities that it was. And it's because a lot of the nutrition products have gotten, or the advanced nutrition products have gotten much, much better. They taste better, they're better for you, they're processed better. The freezing methods are much better than they were at that time. But there was lots of food at that time that was considered healthy for you, lower calorie, more fiber, or this or that, but it just wasn't palatable. You just couldn't get it down. You'd buy a loaf of this bread, and it would turn green before you got halfway through it because it was so horrible. Nobody wants to put anything on it, So it needs to be good food. And soy and tofu and those things, great products if you like that. But there's some folks that would never eat tofu on a bed. It does have a lot of protein. It's a great option if that's what you like, or if you cook it in a manner that's going to be what you would eat and what you like. But for Louisiana, a lot of times it's gravy. If you put enough gravy on anything, you can eat it, you know, you can tolerate it. But it has to be something that you're going to be able to get in your diet, something that you're going to be able to do. It doesn't do any good in the package. The loaf of bread that sits there and goes green, it didn't help you any, and it costs a ton probably. All the advanced nutrition products really are fairly expensive. The other question comes down, is it too good? Our food in Louisiana is the best there is. It's hard to compare with how we grew up eating and what our moms cooked for us and our grandparents cooked for us. Some of the best food there is. We also have one of the highest obesity rates of any state because of that. There's hundreds of other factors that of course go with that, but if you eat too much of anything, and I've heard dietitians all throughout my career say, whether it's M&Ms or baked potato, it's the same thing. It's not. It's not the same thing. It doesn't work like that. It's how your body processes it. But it's about a 70% obesity or overweight rate in the United States right now. A few years back, Colorado was the only state that didn't have an overweight problem in its general population. I don't know if that's changed or not. This is probably 4 or 5 years ago. But for most states, it's a big deal. Any questions about this? Any questions?
Have you seen that obesity map where they start like in the early 80s and then the states change color as the obesity rate goes up? Mm-hmm. They had to invent another color for Louisiana at one point. I mean, that's when you can really see it. It was like, wow.
Right. Yes, ma'am. You're 100% right. And that's how we first got our recognition as a food destination. It's because of our population is so heavy.
Our food is too good.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Don't go to Louisiana because you're going to gain weight when you come back.
All the butter and the fat and lard
and with that being said, there's nothing wrong with a special meal. On your birthday, you should get whatever you want, you know, as long as it's not harming you. If you go to one of the fancy restaurants on, Axe Patous or Commander Palace or any of those down there, they're using whole cream, they're using heavy cream, they're using egg yolks. So where at home you may use 2 eggs, yolk and whites, they're using 4 egg yolks because it's going to be as rich and creamy as it possibly can be. So you're going to add some calories for that. For a lot of dietitians doing diet counseling, they're going to say if you mess up one time, you've blown this week or this month or whatever is in their mind. You can't live like that because you're never going to be successful. It's best to have some days where you have a little bit more, you allow yourself a little bit more, you take better care of yourself. If you look at the diets that are successful, the ones that are a set calorie level every day for months and months are not very effective because your body needs that fluctuation. So in the past, when I've designed diets, it would have Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they would get 1,500 calories. On Tuesday, Thursday, they would get 1,400 calories or 1,200 calories. And then on the weekends, they would get 1,600 or 1,800 calories. And those diets seem to be the most successful because it gives you a little bit more flexibility. Weekends, you're usually going to be running more. You may have more time to do more in-depth cooking. And you want to make it a little bit better, a little bit more special. You've got your grandkids coming over or whatever it is. So it helps if you can make those adjustments to have a difference in calorie level. This is the Harris-Benedict equation. There's about 190 different methods to determine somebody's calorie needs. This used to be the gold standard in nutrition back in the 70s and 80s. It's changed now. It's indirect calorimetry where they put you up to a machine. It measures your oxygen uptake, your CO2 output. And it can tell you pretty close exactly what your resting metabolic rate is and how many calories you're going to need a day. And it also gives you an idea of what you're burning right now. Do you have too much fat in your diet? Or you're not getting enough carbohydrates? Those types of things. So that's probably the standard right now. In general, just for our standard population, typically ladies are going to be about 1,600 calories, somewhere in there. 1,200 to 1,600 calories, and then most men should be somewhere between 1,800 and 2,000 or 2,200 calories. So about 2,000 calories is right for most men. There's very few men that eat that consistently. And there's, it can be very, very difficult to stay on track like that, to keep that strict calorie level. So that's one reason it's better to mix it up and have different amounts at different days. This is incredibly complex, and it can take 15 minutes to do one patient, and that's if you've got all the information right there. But it's your height, your weight, your activity level, your sex, there are activity, I think I said activity, there's also a specific dynamic effect, which is how much your body uses to digest the food. So when you're digesting the food, your intestines are working real hard, you got a lot of blood pumping and you're pulling nutrients out, and it takes X amount of calories to do that, so this takes that into effect. Any questions about that? Okay, whole grains. There are two types of carbohydrate, a complex carbohydrate, and that's the one that's the whole grains, wheat bread, whole grain pastas, that kind of stuff are gonna be the complex carbohydrates. Those empty a little bit slower from your stomach, get into your bloodstream a little bit slower, and kind of don't elevate your blood sugars quite as much as the simple carbohydrates. And simple carbohydrates have gotten a really bad rep of the last however long. Everybody talks about no sweets, no white sugar, no refined sugar. Fun thing though is your brain and central nervous system only runs off of simple carbohydrates. So you've got to have them. Now the magic thing, and you've known people that have been on the Atkins diet and have very limited carbohydrates, and they have 10 or 15% of their total diet is carbohydrates. It's not that they're getting all of that simple carbohydrate from those little bit of carbohydrate in their diet. It's because certain foods and certain amino acids can be broken down into simple carbohydrates. So you'll take an amino, and we'll talk about protein here in just a little bit, but you'll take an amino acid and you break it up, and that backbone chain in there, about 40% of that can be broken down into simple carbohydrates stored in your brain and central nervous system. But you see a lot, not a lot, you'll see occasionally somebody that's on a very, very low carbohydrate diet, and their calorie needs are not being met. They're not getting enough calories in, and they'll have some confusion, and you think, well, what's going on here? And you see them the next time and they're fine, and it's because they've eaten. It's because they've gotten enough carbohydrates to run their brain and central nervous system. People always are bad on fats. Fat's a bad thing. You gotta have a certain amount of fat. We're gonna talk about essential fatty acids here in a little bit, but about 10% of the fats can be broken down into that simple carbohydrate. It's a very small amount, and it's very difficult for your body. The specific dynamic effect we just talked about, that's part of that process, is breaking up those amino acids. Any questions? Fiber. Everybody likes to talk about fiber. Does anybody do fiber supplements? Okay, fantastic.
I do it in my
Good.
smoothie every morning.
Do it in my coffee.
Yeah, that's a great way, because it doesn't, if it is a gritty one, it's not as good. I got a bunch of slides on fiber, because the last group had 401 questions about fiber. They really, that was their main thing. There's two basic types of fiber. It's insoluble, which just goes right through you, and then there's soluble, which absorbs water, increases stool bulk, and makes you feel full, and helps with that delayed emptying time of the complex carbohydrates to keep you full over a longer period of time. The insoluble fiber is a little bit less expensive. If you're getting a supplement or something like that, it's going to be less expensive for that manufacturer to put together. You do need a certain amount of soluble fiber, though, just to make sure that your body processes and works effectively. You have all these microvilli in your intestines, and if you don't eat enough, then you're not getting enough nutrients in. That microvilli gets bigger and expands because it's trying to grab every little bit of nutrient that goes through it. So if you don't have enough fiber, and it's massaging and helping those microvilli to respond, then it can cause deficiency syndromes, just you not getting enough stuff in. These are some of the high fiber foods, there's a magic list that goes out every year, and you always see carrots at the top of the list, and it's because they're very high in beta-carotene, they're very high in insoluble fiber, great item with very, very low calories. So you don't get a lot of calories, but a lot of nutrition in with it. So it's always gonna be pretty high. Sweet potatoes are always gonna be pretty high, especially the deep dark orange and deep orange ones, because they have so many nutrients. They do have a little bit more calories than some of the other foods that would be on the list. And then some of the others you might see would be like blueberries because of the antioxidants. That's always gonna be up there pretty high. And it's funny, every now and then you'll see kale or some of the new superfoods that come out that people are so excited about. Any questions about these foods?
So is it true that like women need to have a higher amount of fiber than men?
The recommendation is relative is the same in the percentage of calories that you get.
Okay.
So it would be the same for the percentage of calories. Typically, guys eat more than ladies do, so they're going to get more fiber in. The typical American diet has almost no fiber in it. You know, we recommend 20-25 milligrams or grams of fiber a day. A lot of times the American diet has 6 to 8 grams of fiber. And it's just almost non-existent, and it's a lot of white potatoes, it's a lot of fried foods. The meats in those have almost no fiber in them. It really is your fruits, vegetables, and whole grains that provide the fiber for your diet. I would suggest that everyone have some idea of how much fiber they're getting in, because when I sit down and do a diet review with someone, I ask them, are you getting enough fiber? Yes, absolutely getting enough. And they're getting less than 10 grams a day. They're almost getting none. And they just don't realize it and don't realize where it's coming from. It is a good idea to, if you're not gonna eat those foods, and I've had so many patients that I'm not eating any salad food. When they say salad food, they mean everything that's not a white potato and a piece of red meat of some kind. So if you're not going to eat anything leafy green vegetables, if you're not going to eat any of that, you may need a fiber supplement. It would be best if you had a fiber supplement that has a combination of insoluble and soluble fiber. It is a little bit less expensive for the insoluble fibers, so you rarely see any that don't have a combination. These are just some insoluble and soluble fibers. And then these, like 3-in-1, 4-in-1, those are the ones where it's going to have a combination of the different types of fiber. And earlier we had a slide that had the different types of fiber. You know, really like the lignin, those type of things. You're not getting that much of that in your diet. It's just not that readily available. But I would say beware of anybody that pushes a particular brand of any product, whether it's a multivitamin or a fiber supplement or anything else. Really, it's about what you're getting for your money and what's cost effective for you, because you don't want to be throwing away a lot of money on a name brand or on something that has these magic claims. We all know there's no magic in food other than we love it and it tastes great. But I would say go with the most cost-effective supplement, whatever that might be. Lean meats, poultry, and fish. So we're going to talk about proteins now. And proteins are made up of amino acids. Amino acids are fascinating. The way that it works is there's a chain, and it may be a single or just a few amino acids together. A few amino acids together is called a peptide, but they can be chains of much longer than that. And then when you start building the structures of your body, and let's say a white blood cell or some vitreous humor for your eye or keratin for your hair, whatever it may be, anytime you're building that, you've got this pool of amino acids that are in your body at any given time. And they've came from the food that we've ate or the supplements that we've had. Our body's broken them down, absorbed them through your intestines into your bloodstream, and they're just floating around there. So your body's going to build this white blood cell. So it's going to start off with the first amino acid, second, third, fourth, and let's say there's 130 amino acids in this chain. If it gets down to 126 amino acids, and you're looking for that 126 amino acid, and 127 is right there ready to go, But if you don't have 126 to put in place right that second, your body says there's none. I can't do this. And it starts chopping all that amino acids up, and you don't make that white blood cell. It's gone. We usually eat, as Americans, Louisianans, we usually eat enough protein. We usually get quite a bit in. And we usually get enough of a variety. Even in red meat, you're gonna have quite a bit of amino acids in there. So usually you're gonna be okay. In that pool of amino acids, you only have so much room. You know, it's like this. We could put boxes in here and boxes in there. Once we get the room full, we're not putting more boxes in it. And that's what happens with amino acids. You'll see, especially kids or somebody bodybuilding or exercise crazy or whatever it is, and they're going to start supplementing with specific amino acids, single amino acids. So instead of doing a multivitamin supplement or an amino acid supplement, a whey protein supplement, something like that, they'll do specific amino acids, and they may do the branch chain amino acids, valine, isoleucine, leucine. But when you have way too much of those three, you're taking up that room. So if we had red and black and purple boxes in here, we've got to have a mixture of all of them so that we'll be able to make them all go. So it's important that you don't overload that amino acid pool with too many of one or two or three types of amino acids. And we've seen people use tryptophan, alanine, a dozen amino acids because it's some magic that they've heard about or that they've read about, and it's going to make their life better because of this. It just doesn't work like that. You need that variety. And that goes back to the variety of fruits, vegetables, whatever it is. If you don't have a variety of these amino acids in that magic pool that you got, you're probably not going to be able to build the structures that you need. And it's constantly going. If you need that white blood cell, you got to 126, couldn't do it, it'll tear it down, then maybe 30 minutes later, an hour later, it'll go back and try to build that structure if you really need it. And then it'll see if you got enough amino acids. Complete proteins, incomplete proteins, everybody familiar with that? Complete proteins mean it's got these essentials in it and that it's got everything that you need. Incomplete proteins doesn't have all of the essential amino acids. And essential just means that your body can't make it. And there's essential and non-essential for everything, vitamins, minerals, everything there is. So your body can't make these 9 here. So you've got to get them from exogenous, outside source. You've got to get them from your diet or from supplements somehow. And if you have breakfast cereal, that's an incomplete protein. If you have milk's a complete protein. If you put them together, now the cereal's a complete protein. Healthy eating goals, wide variety, fruits and vegetables. We're talking about the vitamins and minerals, and everybody's heard of all of the vitamins, minerals. I'm not telling you anything new. It's just that we forget how many there are and what functions they have, what they do for us. There's been a lot of research about the different amino acids, and it's kind of like we talked about earlier. There's so much information, there's got to be some misinformation out there. So it says you absolutely can't eat this because it may cause high blood pressure. And then you read this article and it says this cures high blood pressure. You got to figure out which one's right and which one's right for you. The essential vitamins are A and B12. Do we have any vegetarians in the room? I haven't had a nursing home with a vegetarian yet either. The B12 is only found in animal products. Peanut butter doesn't have B12 in it. And if you have people that are in an environment where their food is less processed, let's say India or Africa or somewhere like that, and they are vegetarians, all they eat is greens and grains and those types of no animal products, they may be getting enough insects in their diet to be able to provide that little bit of B12. For people in America that are on very, very strict vegan diets, typically about year 5 or 7, you start seeing that they're having some B12 deficiencies, and it's just an injection. You just take a B12 injection, and it lasts a long time. It's kind of like the scurvy we talked about earlier. A little goes a long way. You come in every 3 months, 6 months, and get a B12 injection. and it'll take care of that. Essential vitamins, vitamin A, deep green and orange, and this is a sweet potato. Sweet potatoes, I always talk about magic foods. It's as close to magic as you get because I love them. I think they taste the best. But they also have lots and lots of nutrients. But there's no magic in that. If I eat a sweet potato every week, I'm going to be taller or smarter or any of that. It just doesn't work like that. B1 thiamine and these B1, B2 thiamine riboflavin, those are the ones in the South that included slavery, where the workers weren't given as adequate nutrition as the people that owned the farm. You saw a lot of the B vitamin deficiencies in those folks, and it's because a lot of the meat that they were eating just wasn't that good. Now, if they were getting organ meats, they would be okay, but most time it was, innards, chitlins, that kind of stuff, pig's feet, ears. You weren't getting what you should have gotten.
I got a question.
Sure.
What about a fried sweet potato? Are you like killing the nutrients in there?
The more you process any food, you're getting rid of some of the nutrients. So let's talk about spinach. If you take spinach right out and wash it, don't cook it or heat it or anything, it's got the very most amount of nutrients it's gonna have. You put it in a pot with water and you boil it and boil it. When you pour that water out, you poured out tons of nutrients. They're just gone. If you heat something to a high degree, 375 degrees for frying, somewhere in that range, you're killing a lot of the nutrition. So the least processed you can tolerate the item, the better it's going to be for you nutritionally.
So an uncooked carrot would be better than a cooked carrot.
100%. Yep. It's whether you can tolerate that uncooked carrot. Lots of folks can't. Carrots are sweet and good, and crunchy, and all that good stuff. But there's a lot of people that would never eat an uncooked carrot. They may eat it in a soup or something like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't impact the fiber, but it does impact the nutrients, and it's the heat and the cooking method and the time that goes. And I was going to talk about this a little bit later too. That we'll go ahead and hit it. The way that I just lost what I was going to say. For amino acids, there are L and D isomers, and the L isomer, which was in a lot of the supplements that they sold in the 70s and 80s, your body can't recognize it. Doesn't mean anything for your body at all. And a lot of those come from bacteria, and you've heard about the farms where they're raising the bacteria, and it grows this amino acid or grows that amino acid. Those are a lot of times going to be the L isomer, the left-hand isomer, and it's just not good for you. Your body can't absorb it or adjust it or anything. It's very cheap because it doesn't cost anything to have this bacteria, but it's just not very healthy. Your body doesn't know the difference between vitamin C and an orange and vitamin C and a pill. Your body just can't tell the difference. Now, the truth is nutrition is a relatively new science. It's only been around 100, 125 years. And there's a lot of stuff in that orange that isn't in that pill. There's fiber, there's other vitamins than vitamin C. So it's much, much better to have a whole food product than it is to have a pill.
That was better than orange juice because it got too much sugar. And orange is better than orange.
And it can have, right now, there was a horrible freeze and growing conditions in Florida. Orange juice is through the roof right now. You can't hardly afford it. Most of the places are looking to add a combination. But orange juice, pineapple juice right now, I can't afford it. It's so expensive. And it's gonna get worse in a little bit. Just had a product that's an orange juice product, and it's gonna go up 65% in September. It's
Oh my
crazy.
God.
Yeah, it's crazy. There are, we've all talked about COVID, and everybody thinks it's over with. For nutrition or food service, it's not over. The global warming, the Panama Canal is so low that the larger cargo ships can't get through it right now. They're having to go around. And then there's Houthi rebels in the Red Sea that are attacking cargo ships. And what a food service vendor paid $2,000 in December for a container cargo container. Right now, it's $8,000. So it's went up 400%, and it's because of those impacts like that. It's just amazing how everything impacts our food supply and the cost of our food supply.
So you may be gonna touch on this too, but just getting vitamins through, taking those pills. I mean, how do you make sure that your body's really getting it and you're just not creating expensive urine?
Right. That is a great question. And the only way to be 100% sure is to do a blood panel where you see what your actual levels are, and that would tell you if you notice that your urine is that fluorescent yellow green color, then you're probably wasting a lot of that. And it can be any of these supplements can be that. You're not going to absorb all the fiber supplements that you take a lot of times. You're not going to absorb all the amino acids. It just goes through. If you were going to take 1,200 milligrams of calcium a day, if you take it all at one time, your body says, "Ooh, there's lots of this. I don't have to have as much of it," and a lot of it just goes straight through. But if you were to take 200 milligrams and then 2 hours later take 200 milligrams and then at lunch take 400 milligrams and you do 1,200 over the whole day, your body's going to absorb more of it and much more efficiently. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
What about, almond milk, is that really not as part of TV?
I am not an almond milk specialist or oat milk or any of the groups. There's a lot of dietitians that don't think that we should be drinking, as adults, we shouldn't be drinking milk, and it has to do with it's expensive nutritionally, and that your body has to break it down, and there's so many people that are lactose intolerant. But even if you're not lactose intolerant, you can tolerate it fine, and you can afford it. There's still some question about the volume of milk that we drink as a group, as a society. I don't really have a strong opinion one way or the other.
I just wish the almond milk, because milk spoils too quickly. If
It
it's
does.
the low.
Now, there's ultra pasteurized milk right now that'll last for a year. It's shelf stable. You can set it on that counter over there.
That's
And you
what I
probably-
buy, that
yeah.
ultra pasteurized,
Yeah.
and it lasts forever.
Organic, ultra pasteurized milk lasts for a long time too.
Yeah.
That's what we buy at home.
I think
Yeah.
it tastes
Ultra
good.
pasteurized. Can I get some milk with a lot of words?
Right. If you look just for like organic milk, they're usually all ultra pasteurized anyways, and they last probably for a couple months.
Yeah, at
Fairlife
least a month
is the-
longer
is
than
the
regular
brand.
milk, at least.
You buy it
And it
Walmart
tastes
or
better.
whatever.
Yeah.
I do, I think it
Well,
tastes
How
yeah,
do
better.
you make your cereal. I think cereal's good for breakfast, and you put some blueberries and bananas. It's pretty good. It's pretty
How do you like the almond milk? Was that an easy
You have to
transition
get
for
used
you?
to it, as well as like Greek yogurt. At first, when you start to eat Greek yogurt, it's like,
Mhm.
but you get used to it. So yeah, if you feel like it's good for you.
I drink almond milk, not very much, but I do keep it, and it lasts forever too.
Mhm.
I make
My
my
husband
own.
drinks the Fairlife, and he probably drinks
Fair.
one of those a day.
Mhm.
He drinks a ton of milk.
Mhm.
What's all those words again?
Ultra pasteurized.
I make my own oat milk,
Fair.
and it tastes really good.
Mm.
I use it in like my smoothies and things like that. So
That's so impressive.
I don't like milk, so
I'm not-
Fair like ultra pasteurized.
I don't drink the almond milk, I'll use it in cereal.
Yeah, I just on my cereal, right?
Yeah.
Plus with the banana and stuff.
And for cow's milk the fat in cow's milk is very saturated. So if you have skim milk, almost no fat, 1% fat, 2%, and then whole milk, depending on the cow and what part of the country it's from, is probably 2.8 to 3.4% fat. Well, 3% fat doesn't sound like much. That doesn't sound bad. But it's a butter fat. It's how saturated it is, and it's how hard it is on your body to manipulate, and how it can coat your arteries and that type of stuff. So if you have a better option that you like for milk, you're probably better off.
So
doing
you
that.
can definitely, if you're like visiting somebody's home and they have the full milk, you can
Mhm.
tell.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah.
Thick.
It's almost tastes like it, or the mouthfeel is almost like eggnog for people that drink whole milk, when they drink eggnog, if you drink skim milk or almond milk and then you drink whole milk, it's almost that level. Coat your
Yes.
mouth.
Thick.
And,
Definitely tells.
yes, ma'am. Pyridoxine, there was a lot of studies in the 90s that came out, and it was attached to energy production, energy manipulation. And we're going to start going really fast. I'm dragging, I'm sorry. But those studies really did not pan out. There was a lot of good stuff at the beginning, that this is going to make a difference and this is going to increase people's energy production. And there were tons of people taking B6 supplements to get more energy and stuff. It really didn't help. It was no magic. It did not fix it. B12, cobalamin, we've already talked about that. Vitamin C, we talked about scurvy. D, D, E, and vitamin K are your fat-soluble vitamins. It's essential that you have those. For vitamin K, if you're on any type of blood thinner or anything like that, they're going to tell you to watch your vitamin K intake. And it's not that you shouldn't have whole grain leafy vegetables where most of your vitamin K comes from. It's that you need the same amount, about the same amount every day, over and over and over. Because if you have a ton of it on Monday and Tuesday, then you don't have any for 3 or 4 days, and then you have a ton of it, your blood levels of vitamin K are going like that. Well, they're doing your blood thinner based off of whatever your blood levels are. And if they're taking your blood levels when you're eating a lot of vitamin K, it's going to be too thin when you're not doing vitamin K. So you have to watch that. Omega-3s, and we're going to go over this just really briefly, because that was a huge topic. Is anybody interested in omega-3s?
I take omega-3s every day.
Okay,
They're 3 and 6.
perfect. It needs to have EPA and DHA are the two. Yep, it's got to have that on the label. If it doesn't have that, you're really not helping yourself a whole lot. Same thing with the vitamin C pill or an orange. It's much better if you can get it from Whole Foods than a supplement, but most of us aren't getting enough omega-3s, and there are a lot of benefits. We just don't know exactly. It's kind of like the B6 in the 90s, you know, something will shake out in the next little bit. But there's crazy volume of stuff that people are looking at. Of course, it helps with inflammation and that kind of stuff, and may impact brain health. But there's even a group that's looking on where they're premature gray hairs because of omega-3. You didn't have enough omega-3s in your diet. I mean, it can go on and on. I would say don't take more than 5,000 milligrams of omega-3s in a day. That would probably be a lot. Anytime you get over 400% of the RDA for a vitamin mineral supplement of any kind, it no longer becomes an over-the-counter supplement. It's a drug. So make sure you're not taking that much.
What doses did you say? Not to exceed?
5,000 milligrams for omega-3s. Now, and of course, it's individualized. You know, if you're taking, get with your doctor and see what he says. But yeah, that's a ton.
I mean, my serving is like 800 milligrams.
Right. That and there. It's one of those things. The iodine versus mercurochrome. When iodine was out, if you put too much on it didn't help you. It actually may make it worse. Came out with mercurochrome, you can bathe in it, and it's not going to hurt. It's kind of like that. Well, it may help in gray hair and inflammation. Well, let's get all of it that there is. You know, all that the store
Yeah,
has.
if this works, then this much is going to work that much better.
Yeah, right. Yeah. If 800 works, then 2400's got to be so much better.
Yeah,
And
no.
people just ramp it up. You know, they just can't stop themselves sometimes. And then some of the supplements. Again, I don't recommend any particular one. Whatever's better for your cost to benefit ratio. Look, make sure it's got those two sets of letters, the DHA, EPA. It's got to have those on there, and it's both of them. You'll see supplements now that are, you know, focused on one or the other. It really needs both to be an effective.
And they make fish oils that actually taste good. Mine are strawberry flavored, so you don't like burp fish.
Yeah.
It's, and I don't even feel like I do that, but it tastes like strawberry.
Mm-hmm. Nice. What, do you mind me asking what brand you?
Nordic Naturals.
Nordic. Thank you. Sodium, potassium, magnesium. The elements are you've got to have them. calcium's the one you have the most in your body. It's, of course, we know bones and teeth, so we have lots of that. As we get older, we lose a lot of it. Potassium's typically the second most, and then magnesium's probably the third most in our system, in our body. They all function and help with nerve induction. It's how our nerves work. But there's 100 other things they do. Calcium it also helps with your heart beating and heart function. Blood pressure is related to all of these. Potassium and sodium work together inside and outside your cells. And the potassium's on the inside of your cell and the sodium's on the outside of your cell, and they work as pumps pulling water back and forth and other things. And occasionally if you go to a Mexican restaurant or Tex-Mex and you have lots of cheese and lots of sodium and salt on your chips and all of this, the next day your rings won't fit because you're so swollen. And it's that sodium is in the outside of your cells, and it's holding water, retaining water. The recommendation for sodium has changed dramatically during my time as a dietitian. When I got out of school, 5,000 milligrams of sodium was considered standard. That's what everybody did. Every diet had that. Every hospital's diet had that. It's dropped dramatically over the years. It's now at 2,300 milligrams. And with as much processed foods, and I'm not even talking about, not even really talking about like Pop-Tarts and that type of stuff. I'm just talking about the way we use preservatives. Polysorbate, it helps with fights against fungus and molds and that kind of stuff on baked goods, and allows them to last for several days. It's got a certain amount of sodium in them. Sodium triphosphate is well known, but there's also sodium monophosphate and 10 others that have preservative effects, and it's what allows us to keep bacon in the refrigerator for a month instead of for 3 days. And we wouldn't probably be able to do without it, but it does make it very, very difficult to get your diet low enough for the sodium level. And that is the heart recommendation and a number of other groups now. Free water, we all gotta have a certain amount of free water. If you don't have about 1,000 mils of free water in your diet, you just can't flush all the waste. Your kidneys won't work as effectively, your skin won't look as good, your joints are gonna creak and hurt. It's gonna be a problem. So you need a certain amount of free water. Now, all the foods that we eat has a certain amount of free water. Even flour, which flour is as dry as you can get, it's got a certain amount of free water. And it's not that it's liquid and that it pours, it's just your body can manipulate it. Kind of like the simple carbohydrates for your brain and central nervous system. Your body can make the free water out of those foods. Everybody's heard the 10 to 12 ounces, 8 to 10 glasses a day. That's a lot. That doesn't include tea. Tea, we're talking about just water. So tea, Cokes, that kind of stuff, they're more of a diuretic than they are free water. And there's a lot of bound water in there, but you're gonna probably go to the restroom and lose more water than what's in that Coke. The other problem with the sodas and stuff is the amount of phosphorus in there, and that impacts your bone health. So it really is a good idea to make sure that you get enough water in. And like we talked about with the calorie levels for the different groups, about 1,600 mil, typically 1 meal per calorie works out pretty close. 1,600 mils for ladies and about 2,000 mils for men. Medications impact the way that we taste and our food is and the way we like our food. A lot of the cholesterol medicines and a lot of the blood pressure medicines may have a metallic taste, or make our foods have a metallic taste or taste off, or things that you loved and now you're on atorvastatin and it just isn't the same. It just doesn't taste right. And it's just the medications and the way that our body works with that. Everybody thinks that the taste of the food is the most important. There's only about 10,000 taste receptors on your tongue. There's 1.2 million olfactory receptors in your nose. So smelling the food can be as important as tasting the food. Most of us didn't understand that until COVID. Did anybody have COVID in here? I had it 4 times, and I lost smell 2 of those 4 times, and I had no idea how bad that was going to impact mine. Did you lose smell also?
I did. That's how I knew I had it even before I took the test, because I was making a cup of coffee and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't smell this.
Yep. Were you able to keep your intake up and eat well?
I luckily didn't. It wasn't that bad, and I
Okay.
didn't. It didn't take me that long to get over it. So
Oh,
it
good.
wasn't.
Good.
I had probably 3 or 4 days of just feeling really bad, and then after that, it was fine.
I was still at the VA at that time, and a gentleman that worked with me there lost his smell for 6 months. And they weren't sure it was gonna come back. He was a younger gentleman and I guess had it really bad or bad strain or whatever it was. But I didn't think he was gonna recover, and just getting him enough food in, he's a tall, thin guy anyway, but it was just tough getting enough nutrition in him. We all worked on it. One thing, just out of the blue for children, they can have very, very sensitive taste, and they don't like mixed foods or stuff. You know, a lot of kids don't want it touching. It's because when they have the two foods together, or they have the gravy or sauce from this food on this one, it tastes foreign. It just doesn't taste right. There's something wrong with it. So a lot of times, if you'll do divider plates, or you just put smaller quantities on their plates, or even do bowls, stuff like that, they'll eat more a lot of times. And then this isn't 100% exact. This is just kind of the way it is. This sweet part right here is probably the one that we lose the latest. My mom's 90 this week and in a nursing home, and I buy her $100 worth of cookies and candy every week and Cokes every week, because that's the only thing she really enjoys now, and that she still gets taste out of.
Same thing with like Alzheimer's and dementia. That's the last one that they lose. So
And
that's why.
She's in stage Alzheimer's dementia.
And it's like, you want it, you can have it.
Right. Yep. That's my thought.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all that I have. Can I answer any questions or anything that I can elaborate? Anything?
Well, I just have a question. Right now, like on the diet side, I'm seeing a lot where they're really promoting really high protein diet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, what do you think about that? Is that just one of the latest fads, that somehow that's gonna help you lose more weight if you have more protein?
You know, everything's cyclical. In the I guess late 80s and 90s, that Atkins diet, and I don't even think they call it Atkins diet now. They call it Paleolithic and
Yeah.
100 other
Keto.
things. Yeah, they, all of these different things. So if they put it in a new package, it's the same thing. Put it in a new package and they sell it better. I don't agree with a very high protein diet. It's very, very expensive metabolically for your body. It's the only one that has a nitrogen on it that you've got to get rid of and you got to break off. And then you got to break all those amino acids down, absorb them into your system, and you have all of this volume of protein, and you're not having enough of the carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates. You wind up taking the protein structures, breaking those down to run your brain and central nervous system. That's expensive financially. There's no steak anywhere that's as cheap as a baked potato, you know. So I don't agree with the high protein diet. I really think it's hard on your body and hard on your pocketbook for no reason. I don't know that you're gonna get any benefits out of it. And you do see a lot more kidney issues, and you do see some joint issues and people with extremely high protein diets a lot of times. Great question.
You know, 'cause like our great grandparents, they didn't eat nothing healthy, but they walked a lot. They lived to be like 100.
But you know, like my dad, all the way up till right before he died, had a garden, and we ate out of that
They were
garden.
fresh.
Yep.
They ate whole foods. They didn't have
No
preservatives
processed. Yeah.
and processed. Yeah, that's the
I've eaten
thing.
this room full of purple whole peas. You know,
Yep.
but there wasn't all this process. Like if you get, and we talked about the heat and the cooking methods and that kind of stuff. The closer to the natural food you can get. So if you get a frozen purple whole pea, that's always going to be healthier, more nutrition. Not always. 99% of the time, it's going to be better than a canned pea that's been processed, because it's heated at the factory and get all the bacteria out of it. It's add tons of preservatives to it so that you can have it in that can for over a year. You know, typically in general, if you're putting stuff in a freezer, your freezer should be at 0 degrees. Everybody thinks 32 is no. Your freezer needs to be 0 degrees. If you have meats, they can stay in your freezer for about a year, somewhere close to that. But any of your fresh fruits and vegetables and breads and that kind of stuff, 6 months is about where you need to be. When you get much over that, you're losing quality of it. And a lot of times the nutrition label that's on a product, that's what the expiration date's for. Like that canned purple peas is gonna last 30 years. but the nutrition that's in that can is degrading over time. And what's in that can a year from now isn't gonna be what was packed, and it's not gonna match, and that's one of the big reasons.
The other thing you were talking about, just like from what you learned, how to calculate the nutrients and everything that people need, is there calculators now that we can go on the internet and find?
100%, yes, 100%. Yep, sure is.
So you just Google, like,
Mhm.
you know.
Calorie calculator.
My calorie needs or calorie needs for.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it'll break it down to the macronutrients to show you like how many carbs you need or how many, you know, whatever.
Yes, there are those tools that are on site. Now, they want you to pay for a lot of them, and
Yeah.
some of them are university driven. But there's a lot of free ones out there too.
Okay.
But you can put in, and it's 4 or 5 things. It'll give you your expected calorie needs. Some of them you can add your activity in there and it'll change that. And then your macronutrients, your protein, carbohydrate, fat, you can adjust that because it'll give you, this is recommended, but you can adjust it if you would like in a lot of those programs, and it'll tell you where you're at. And then for your micronutrients, for your essential vitamins, minerals, those types of things, it'll give you an idea of what quantity of food you would need to eat. It'll say, this is the diet that will get you everything you need if you eat this. Now, problem with that is that they want you to buy a diet plan for months and months. Nobody wants to eat. It always aggravates me when a dietitian hands somebody a week's menu or a 3-day menu and said, this is what you have. And then somebody come back to me 3 months later, they've ate that same 3 days for 3 months.
Ugh.
Bless your heart, that's torture. You know, nobody wants to do. So there are a bunch of tools out there that can help you with that, and they'll break it down specifically what you need to the quantities you need to eat, and they'll make suggestions. And the really good ones will have recipes and other things on there to make it more palatable.
We talked about that in other classes, it's like a process. If this is better for you than that, so you take a step over there, and then you know you go, and you take another step.
Right.
And it's,
You're always chasing your tail. You're always trying to get to the next thing. Yeah.
well, I did learn about, the fresh carrots over the cooked carrots.
Mhm. And that's pretty much anything. If you have a white baked potato, if you could tolerate it raw, you're gonna have more nutrients in it.
No.
But the less stuff you put on that baked potato, like if you just bake it and don't put salt and pepper and butter and all sour cream, all that stuff on it, it's much more healthy than you put the others on it. But I mean, how many people are gonna eat a baked potato like that?
Plain
You know,
baked
it's-
potato.
And I have to say, 30 years ago or whatever it was, I was powerlifting, bodybuilding, and I did. I ate a baked potato just like an apple, nothing on it, just a baked potato, skin and all. I don't recommend that.
My friend eats orange peel.
It's amazing what your body can tolerate, what your body can get. And you know, zest right now is the biggest thing in cooking. So orange zest, lemon zest, whatever it is the biggest ingredient there is right now.
Well, portion control too is a factor.
Or- That's probably the biggest key. And that if you get to a good site and they say that you need kale and corn and this amount of baked fish, it'll have the quantities on there. It'll have, now for most cooked vegetables, the quantity is going to be a half a cup is your serving size. For proteins, it's going to be 3 ounces or so. Now, the older you get, they do recommend less, and that's another argument against a high protein diet is, as we age, we should eat a little bit less protein. And if you look at the nursing homes, at lunch, they'll have a 3 ounce portion of protein or meat, and then at supper, it's going to be 2 ounces.
That's another thing, is like get you a luncheon plate, it's smaller, and then your food looks bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't cost anything.
Right, yes ma'am.
You're tricking your brain.
Mhm.
Or eat slower.
There's also, that eat slower is a big thing, and then your body is set up for how you've done this your whole life, how many trips that fork needs to make from here to here. And if you can put less on that fork and make those trips, it'll make a difference. It really will. So there's a lot of those types of tricks, and they're all on the internet. They're all I would say take everything with a grain of salt though, and is this something that really is making an impact for me? Now with the nutrients and stuff, and we talked about omega-3s, if you're not gonna take omega-3s, you know, 6 weeks, 6 months, something like that, you're not gonna get much out of them. Like if you take them for 3 weeks and then quit to see if there's a difference, there's not gonna be a difference. You need, probably most people need 6 weeks minimum, but some people need 6 months on omega-3s, omega-3 supplements to be able to notice a difference.